City. He was 0 for 6 in shot attempts in 36 minutes and finished with only 4 points, all from the free throw line. OKC has a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 finals. The LA Sparks continue to struggle. They were blown out at home Tuesday night by Seattle, a 31-point loss. At 4-9, the Sparks are one of 7 WNBA teams below 500. 3 HBCU baseball players were invited to this week's Major League Baseball Draft Combine in Phoenix. Infielder Juan Cruz of Alabama State, Florida A&M catcher Brody Popo, and Southern University outfielder Cardell Thibodeau. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, you're listening to a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q. There I am, fresh for you to follow. Also be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to a More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now, look, it is Juneteenth Eve, and the festivities are already underway, but it's not too late for you to register. Our KBLA Talk 1580 4th anniversary events are fast approaching. They're just getting started up. And if you haven't already, you may want to register at KBLA1580.com. That's, again, our KBLA1580.com website. I want to encourage you to actually stop what you're doing right now and go ahead and register, because it's our 4th anniversary. And we want to celebrate it with you. And so if you're planning to join us for our 4th anniversary celebration and barbecue on the Juneteenth holiday, we're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena fire. Grocery store chain, restaurant, whatever you got, we're grateful for whatever you are willing to bring to help the families that are still displaced by the wildfires. So go to our KBLA1580.com website right now and sign up for events that you plan to attend. And remember, all of our anniversary events are free, but seating is limited. And so thanks in advance for making this a priority and going and just getting this done. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, NBC News reporting that the Supreme Court upholds a Tennessee ban on transgender youth medical care. The Supreme Court today upheld a Tennessee law restricting gender transition care for minors, delivering a major blow to transgender rights. The 6-3 ruling is likely to have a broad impact, as 24 other states have already enacted laws similar to the one in Tennessee, which bars gender transition surgery, puberty blockers, and hormone therapy for youth. Those laws now look set to survive similar legal challenges. The ruling does not affect states that do not have such bans, meaning care in those states will still be available. And so for folks who are looking for gender affirming care, they have to get that from states where that is legal. In states where that is not legal, you're not going to be able to get it there, not for youth. The court was divided on ideological lines, with the 6 conservatives in the majority and the 3 liberals in dissent. Writing the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts concluded that the Tennessee law does not constitute a form of sex discrimination that violates the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in a dissenting opinion that, contrary to the majority's conclusion, the law does discriminate based on both sex and transgender status and should therefore be analyzed closely. Justice Sotomayor also took the relatively unusual step of reading a summary of her decision from the bench in court, saying the impact of this decision is incredibly dangerous. Trans rights activists have warned that a ruling allows bans on care for trans minors. It could pave the way for similar restrictions aimed at adults. In other news, Donald Trump, he says Iran has reached out and wants to negotiate. The Guardian reporting this hour that President Trump has declined to answer reporters' questions on whether the U.S. is planning to strike Iran or its nuclear facilities. He said the Iranians had reached out, but he left it very late to be talking. Again, they reached out, but he felt it's very late, quote, it's very late to be talking. There's a big difference between now and a week ago. Nobody knows what I'm going to do. And Iran is going into near total internet blackout. Reports from The Guardian at this hour saying that the internet connections across all of Iran have been slowed to a near halt, according to firms monitoring online traffic. Real-time monitoring from Georgia Tech University showed a, quote, near internet blackout around 5 p.m. local time in Iran. Two internet tracking companies told NBC News that the internet went down around 5:30 p.m. as Israel continued to bombard the country. Cybersecurity company Cloudflare gave an assessment that the internet traffic levels in Iran are now 97% below where they were at the same time just a week ago. Also, during a hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said, quotes, "We have plans for everything," in regard to a question about the military plans for a day after in Iran. And so lots of eyes on President Trump, lots of eyes on the Trump administration in terms of what they will do next in relation to this conflict between Israel and Iran. The nuclear capabilities of Iran, they want to not just diminish them, they want to get rid of them. They don't want Iran to have any nuclear capabilities. And the president himself has, called for total surrender. And so we don't know where this is going to go, but we're going to keep our eye on this because, if in fact we go to war with Iran, that could possibly mean American troops fighting this war. And, we've been down this path before when we entered into war with Iraq, when we entered a war with Afghanistan. And so we will keep you posted again as things develop. Finally, back at home, Mayor Bass lifts the downtown LA curfew put in place to quell protest violence. LAist is reporting that Mayor Bass has lifted the curfew for downtown LA 7 days after it was imposed in response to the violence and vandalism that broke out after demonstrations to protest immigration enforcement sweeps. The move comes just 1 day after Mayor Bass shortened the overnight curfew by 2 hours. In case you were wondering, well, where exactly was this curfew taking place? The curfew had extended east to west from the 5 freeway to the 110 freeway, and from north to south from the 10 freeway to where the 110 and 5 freeways merge. While officials said that the curfew was effective in curbing violence and vandalism, it's been a challenge for bars and restaurants which have had reduced hours. Folks saying that some of the shift leaders at Yuko's Kitchen told sources that moving forward, they're sure they'll be opening till regular hours again. And so if you have an opportunity to do so, go patronize some of the restaurants and shops in downtown LA who could use your business. All right. When we come forward, we're switching gears. It is Juneteenth Eve, and we got something special in store for you. When we come forward, I'm really looking forward to welcoming Phyllis Kelly. She's the narrator of an audiobook called Making Do, Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression. She'll share a few excerpts from that audiobook, but also attempt to connect the dots between the Jim Crow South and how we show up for one another in places like Altadena. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, More when we come forward this Juneteenth Eve on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PUSH to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Hit me!
National News, The Consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to welcome my next guest on this Juneteenth Eve, Phyllis Kelly. She's the narrator of an amazing novel. It's called Making Do: Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression, written by Josanne Wright Callender. It is a timely read given the state of our nation, the state of the world. Welcome to the show, Phyllis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Just for context, our leaders, learners, and listeners should know that you and I had a chance encounter at in Altadena following one of the memorial services for some of the folks who lost their lives there. First things first, I want to check in with you. How are folks doing in Altadena? How are folks healing in Altadena?
People are healing one day at a time. After such a tragedy, it's such a changing experience, for so many of them. I don't actually live in the area. I went out to pray and to be close by. I just felt that the Lord wanted me to do that, and that's why I was there that day. And I've since emptied my storage, gave everything in my storage to the fiery victims that I met that day out there, and 2 others.
Yeah. I mean, we're all doing the best that we can, and so many of us were drawn to, want to support and be in community with folks who are in the very early stages of recovering. So much of that is a part of who we are as a people. The title of your book, Making Do: Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression, talk to us about the connections between your memories of the Jim Crow South and how people have been showing up in support of the community in Altadena.
Well, I grew up in South Carolina, in a small town called St. Matthews, South Carolina, which I love, and I love the people there. I experienced racism the very first time at 6 years old. And when I was not allowed to go in the front door of the doctor's office, and I didn't know any better. My grandfather had been the landscaper for that doctor, and he went to pick up his pay, as he would call it, and I wanted to go along. And I needed to use the restroom, and I kept blowing the horn. I was sitting in the car waiting for him to come back out, and I didn't notice where he went in the front, whether he went in the front or did he go into the back, because I was playing with my dolly at the time. And long story short, when I realized I needed to use the bathroom, I went up to the front and got on my tippy toes to ring the bell, and was told by this wonderful nurse that I knew because I was an asthmatic, and they came to my house most of the times. I had never been to the actual office at that time, so I didn't know the rules, if you would. And so she said, "Oh, you look so beautiful." I was dressed for a birthday party already. And she said, "You look so beautiful. You know, why are you guys so fun?" I said, "I need to please use it right now, please." She said, "The class should have told you already that you are to never come to the front door. Never. You must go to the back. You are colored, Phyllis." And I didn't understand what to do then. I was only 6 years old. And this was a lady who always gave me peppermint candy whenever she was around with the doctor. So I was just I would have never expect her to speak to me like that, first of all. And then now I didn't know what to do, because as I come down the stairs of the house, I started, urinating. And I was already dressed for the party, my beautiful dress with my crinoline slip on, my ribbons in my hair, all dressed for the party. My grandma told me, "Don't you get messed up. You stay in the car." And now I see my grandfather coming around, and he's reprimanding me, but in a nice way, because I was a grandpa and daddy's girl, and a mama's girl, and a grandma's girl, and everybody in the town's girl. But anyway, it just was a tragic experience and memory for me. So from that day, I was told by my granddad never to talk about it, no say, and not to tell my dad anything about it. And, because he said, if you tell your dad, it's going to be really, really bad. So do not say anything to anybody that this happened. And so I never did. I never talked about it. I just recently started talking more and more about it now. So yes.
What do you think your grandfather meant by that in terms of it being really, really bad if you told your dad?
He meant that, my father was the type of person that he would stand up for what's right. And he would have been upset extremely about it, and probably would have gone down to be to confront the doctor or the person, whomever, to get to the bottom of it, as he would say, So, and then there's no telling what would have happened to him after that, So that's why I never spoke about it ever to anyone.
And there are a lot of people who grew up in the Jim Crow South. My mother grew up in the Tampa Bay area in Florida, in Manatee County, also in the Jim Crow South. And as I listen to your story, I think of some of the stories that my mom shared with me when she was growing up. And when she was bused to what was a predominantly white high school, her sophomore year in high school, and what that experience was like. Having, white kids throwing rocks, spitting on you, calling you names. And, years later, as I reflect on those stories, I really zero in on sort of the trauma of it all, right? How that was a traumatic experience, not just for my mom, not just for you as a little girl, but there's a whole generations of our people, who have had to absorb the shock of these traumas and somehow, some way carry on.
Exactly. I think the hard part for me is that I loved the doctor and I loved the nurse, because he always came and made me feel better, as a kid. And he never changed, treated me different. I didn't see him that day. It's a lady that I saw. And the next time I saw her, she was sweet like she always had been before. But that was at my home. That was not at their place of business, So it just was very tragic for me, and a horrific experience for me. So that's why today my children I have one biological child, but the rest of them are all the different ethnicities on purpose, and because I felt that I could either harbor hatred, or I could teach love in my home and then send them out into the world. And that's what my husband and I did and have done.
Wow.
And I've had these conversations, even with Yolanda growing up, Yolanda King, who I managed her career for 13 and a half years, Dr. King's, not eldest, she doesn't like to say eldest daughter, firstborn child of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. But we often would have conversations and speak about, just all of so many experiences that we had growing up, in the South,
And as we are on the eve of Juneteenth, a now federal holiday that has been a long time coming, how are you reflecting on some of those conversations you had with Ms. King, and how are you reflecting on this particular Juneteenth, given the state of our country and the state of the world?
Well, I reflect back on the day when Dr. King, I heard all these men crying, like, oh, and I'm like, what's all the men crying? Because I'm in the South. Men, they cried, but they don't let you see it for the most part. As a child, I never had seen it. And I heard all the crying and the screaming, but I could hear them, the men's voices radiating. And I was like, what happened? And it was Dr. King's assassination. And the men, everybody was all out in the street in my block crying. And I remember thinking about Yolanda, whom I didn't know at the time. And her being very close to my age and how close I was to my father, and just thinking, So I reflect back on that time, on that day, and then years later to find out from her when she said, the world mourned for us because we lost our father. But let me tell you something, Phyllis, that most people don't know. Daddy was my best friend. Mm. So I didn't only lose my dad, I lost my best friend. He loved to ride roller coasters with me, and we're just two peas in a pod. So that's what I reflect back. That's one of my strongest memories. And then sitting down with Miss Parks and having conversation with her over the years of her experience, and just in general being blessed to be among the sheroes of our race. Some of them, many of them I've met and spent time with, Miss Tyson and many others, But the bottom line is that now how I reflect back on the day is like history repeating itself. And I'm tanned right now because I was out protesting all weekend, with my walker. I'm disabled a little bit. I don't claim it, words have power, but, I'm a cancer survivor and patient. But I felt my ancestors calling me, saying that I need to get out there. So I was out protesting. The Bible says that we must pray for our leaders. So that's my answer. I pray. I put on my prayer shawl and I pray. And I continue to pray night and day for positive change, for justice, for peace, for equality, for love to prevail in this country and all over God's world.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel today, because I know that things we've done this before. You know, this is not a new rodeo for us.
That's right.
So we'll come out of this. We will, stronger than ever, because we also have the power of our ancestors. But mostly importantly, we have the almighty power of God. And so with that, I'm not worried about this at all. Because he says what? Fear not. For what? I am with you. And that's what we all have to remember. We have to remember during this time of struggle and strife. We have to remember where we came from, who we are as a people. And that's not just African American people. That's Jewish people. If it hadn't been for Miss Stagger and Miss Wolf in my life, you know, I don't know what I would be today. So, you know, it's all ethnicities. We are one race, the human race. And if our leaders would just live by the golden rule, simply do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I'm going to add, and yours.
Amen. Amen. Look, you know, you just hearing you were reminding me of my grandmother, may she rest in peace, Addie Mae Thomas, who taught me to pray with my hands and pray with my feet. And what I love so much about the story that you just shared with us is that that's exactly what you were doing this weekend. You know, with your prayer shawl, you're praying with your hands, but with your walker, you are praying with your feet. And you are out there at the No Kings protest in LA, making your voice heard, making sure that folks in our communities, that they know that they're not alone. And I think that is one of the most important things we can do in this moment, is to remind people that they are not alone. And I think that is one of the hallmarks of your audiobook, Making Do, Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression, written by Josanne Wright Callender. When we come forward, I want to give you a chance to share some excerpts from the book and talk a little bit more about how this book is meeting the moment. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Phyllis Kelly, the narrator of the book.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he has not heard from federal officials about planned ICE raids, but the city is preparing.
There's no communication from the federal government with our local police department. It's quite problematic.
He says President Trump is fueling fear and division and vows to protect residents and make sure they know their rights. Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial is on hold until Friday after a juror called out with vertigo. Another juror was dismissed earlier this week. Court is closed Thursday for Juneteenth. And reparations may be coming for some Black Californians. Two bills from Senator Akilah Weber Pearson are gaining traction. One would create a process to verify if someone is a descendant of slaves, making them eligible for reparations. The other would establish a state agency called the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, aimed at supporting eligible individuals and educating the public on the true history of slavery. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This report is sponsored by Cadillac of Beverly Hills.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Indiana Pacers have a major injury concern heading into a must-win situation for Game 6 Thursday night in the NBA Finals. Point guard Tyrese Halliburton has a strained right calf. The Pacers aren't sure if he'll be able to play. Halliburton labored through the pain in the Pacers' loss in Game 5 at Oklahoma City. He was 0 for 6 in shot attempts in 36 minutes and finished with only 4 points, all from the free throw line. OKC has a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 finals. The LA Sparks continue to struggle. They were blown out at home Tuesday night by Seattle, a 31-point loss. At 4-9, the Sparks are one of 7 WNBA teams below 500. 3 HBCU baseball players were invited to this week's Major League Baseball Draft Combine in Phoenix. Infielder Juan Cruz of Alabama State, Florida A&M catcher Brody Popo, and Southern University outfielder Cardell Thibodeau. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your beer.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again. Holla, holla.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the second consecutive year with our Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, call the bomb.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
We love you.
Love you.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and she is Phyllis Kelly. She's the narrator of an audiobook that I'm sure you want to get your hands on. It's called Making Do, Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression. It's not lost on me, and probably not lost on you, at a time when we see such vigorous efforts to erase our history, to ban books that might illuminate a history that may otherwise be unknown, particularly for younger folks. This audiobook is definitely worth adding to your collection, particularly in this moment. Phyllis, I'm so glad that you're with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm honored to be a guest here today. Thank you for having me.
And so I've got to ask you, what's your message to young people who think they know, but may not have an idea of the fullness of from where we've come?
Well, I encourage young people to read and to spend time with their elders, because they are the best storytellers. They are the historians. There's no better way. And not only the elders in their own ethnic group, that it's, African American child with another African American, but a Jewish child. I have wonderful times just educating my friends who are Jewish kids, about, and they're so intrigued about this, about my history as well as I listen to theirs. So I think that's the answer to it, that we go to the source, and that's the elders. Back in Africa, there were the griots that told everything, and so here we are. It's the same thing for every ethnic group. I can't, I have a Filipino daughter. I have a Haitian son. I have a blonde, blue-eyed Kentucky girl, Amy. I have, African daughter. I have a German son. I have an Indian daughter, Jasmine. I have children of all different ethnicities that I have embraced and loved and will always love. And I teach them the importance of embracing their culture, So that's how I feel about it. That's what I think the best history is coming from the mouths of those who have experienced it.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree with you more. And I think that's part of the reason why your audiobook is so timely and so useful. I'm thinking back to an organizing event that National Urban League President Mark Morial and Kimberly Crenshaw, among others, were involved with recently as a part of some of the work of the African American Policy Forum. And one of the stories that Mark Morial shared growing up in New Orleans, Louisiana, when at a time where Black children did not get quality books, quality textbooks, didn't really see themselves reflected in the curriculum, didn't see them reflected in the books that they got. His mother, who I believe was a second grade teacher, encouraged him and his sister to be self-taught, right? And so they had a pretty robust bookshelf at home that included the autobiography of Malcolm X, among so many other books that really helped to form his thinking about himself and about the world. And so why this book? Why should folks include this book in their audiobook collection?
Well, Josanne Wright Callender is the amazing and talented, strong believer, author of this book. And she's poured her soul into this book. And the book represents a time in her parents' life when they met and fell in love during the Jim Crow era in the South. And so this book, if you will, I would say shares a lot of the experiences that a lot of people have gone through, that a lot of people don't know about, that should know about it. Because my grandmother says history repeats itself when we don't talk about it. But with this book, I embrace it as being a lot of the important information, experiences of African American culture, but not only African American culture, because we didn't live in a world with just African American people. So it's the intermingling as well. But it's important, a lot of important facts and things that happened in our history that was left intentionally, is the word, out of the U.S. history books. And this book fills that void. Mm-hmm. She is an amazing storyteller. She's a retired LAUSD instructor for many years, an administrator. And so the book is written on purpose that it can, children can, a middle-aged child can pick up the book, and we don't have to worry about there's something in it that has to be censored. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's at any age, basically. Mm-hmm. But telling the true story without beating us over the head with it. Mm-hmm. So it's an enjoyable read, is what I guess I'm trying to say. But that's very informative. The second chapter is all about George Washington Carver and how he inspired her father, who's a farmer, to plant peanuts instead of cotton. Mm-hmm. So that chapter alone stands alone by itself. Yeah. So it's just a book that I feel not just African Americans need in their home, but that I feel all of any ethnicity, a person of any ethnicity should own it. Mm-hmm. No,
I agree with you. I think this book is really a treasure. Just to connect the dots with how we started our conversation talking about Altadena, I think, as someone who grew up in California, born and raised, my mom was born and raised in the Jim Crow South. My dad was born and raised in Accra in Ghana, West Africa. And I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I think one of the beautiful things about books like the one that you have narrated, this beautiful treasure, is that for those of us that may be a little far removed from the point of origin for our families, right?
Yes.
This is an important addition to the collection. In other words, I think of that scene from one of my favorite films, one of my favorite Ryan Coogler films. Shout out to Ryan, Black Panther, when T'Challa is getting his butt whooped, and what does the Queen Mother yell out to T'Challa? She yells out, "Remember who you are. Remember who you are." And so I think one of the beautiful things about this work is it helps us, even in times of trouble, to remember who we are. And so with that, I want to invite you to share an excerpt from this book, from this treasure, this audiobook, Making Do, Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression.
And may I add to say, embrace who you are and embrace whose you are.
All right now. All right now. Amen to that. Amen, amen, amen.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
May 6th was World Asthma Day, and it's a critical time to raise awareness about your asthma. Did you know that Black Americans are approximately 5 times more likely than white Americans to visit the emergency department due to their asthma? Managing your asthma is possible with regular checkups, avoiding known triggers, using prescribed medications correctly, and creating an asthma action plan with your healthcare professional. An action plan is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medications to take to help control your asthma when you're having a hard time breathing or having an asthma attack. Stay aware, have a plan, because your health matters. For more tips and resources on managing your asthma, visit luma-edu.com. luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay, things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
So, I will start with, I'm just going to start somewhere. Now I want you to tear up these old sacks like you did the last bunch. You hear me, child? But this time, I ain't got time for you standing around wool gathering. Big Mama D, who usually looked spry and energetic, had a fine network of wrinkles around her eyes. She stared at me, but seemed to be looking through me. Her expression reminded me of one of the boys I had once seen at Deacon Jones's boxing club. He had taught my brothers and the other boys in our neighborhood how to fight. Out of curiosity, I once peeked into the old blacksmith's shop to see what they were learning. One time, I saw a boy on the ropes under my brother Luke's fighting skills. His face looked like Big Mama D's did now. They were not winning this fight. Not by a long shot. Just then, Sherry Lee, my older sister, whom I love so much, let out a loud moan. It scared me. It scared me so badly. I almost jumped out of my skin. It didn't seem possible that this was my brave big sister. She was the one who could face pain without a whimper. When Sherry Lee was 10, she had a bad tooth. Mother pulled it out with the pliers. My big sister sat still and didn't flinch throughout the whole ordeal. Finally, when Mother yanked the tooth out, Sherry Lee just got up, spat out some blood into the commode, stuffed the socket with a piece of cotton, and went back to her studies. Never once did she complain. In desperation, I grabbed her hand. She had to be strong. It was more than I could bear. Seeing her in so much pain. I said, it's going to be all right, Sherry Lee. It's going to be all right. She said to me, I know, baby girl. Sherry Lee was able to gasp. She looked at me, then shot a worried glance at me. Her daughter May was there too. Someone had pulled out the old bassinet Papa had found and repaired for the baby. May had been placed near the bed. May's little legs kicked the air. Her caramel-colored face was scrunched in a smile. Watching the baby was Sherry Lee's only desire. May contently stuck her fist in her mouth and she smiled in no particular way. At that moment, Miss Minnie let out a grasp of shock. I turned to see that she had lifted the cloth and had exposed Sherry Lee's incision. The cut had turned into an angry, purplish glass. swollen and filled with dark yellow fluid. I almost cried out, but quickly covered my own dismay with the flour sacks. Sherry Lee, once smooth, creamy stomach, was now ravaged by this awful incision. Girl, you go on now. Go on. Go on, hurry up now and tear up them clean rags and make it snappy. I rushed out of the room, gasping to hold back my tears. It shouldn't be this way. So that's an excerpt from the first chapter 1 from the book, and it just was just a wonderful experience for me to play the men, the women, the children, to play the intelligent black men, the intelligent white men, the racist, boy, come on in here like I told you. You don't want me to have to whip you, do you? And the Caucasian women, well, and when Mama D says something to her half-breed daughter-in-law, she says, when I tells you supper is at 6 o'clock, I don't mean a minute after. Now you done come in here with your half-breed self, marry my boy. Think you owning something round here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let you know something. There be one woman in this here house, and that be me. Well, I's doing the best I can. I don't know what else you wants from me. I's doing the washing and I's taking care of the children. And I's doing the best I can. I love you, boy, Ben. I don't know what I can do. I'll tell you what you can do. You can do better.
You can do better. Well, let me tell you something. This narration, I don't know if it gets any better. Phyllis, you are a jewel. And I remember the first time you performed just a snippet of a couple of the 25 plus characters that you portray in the audiobook. I was really amazed. And I think our leaders, learners, and listeners will also be amazed. They should go out and check out this book, download this audiobook. Again, it's called Making Do, Growing Up Colored in the Jim Crow South During the Great Depression. My thanks to Phyllis Kelly for joining us here on A More Perfect Union. We're going to have to leave it there. Our thanks to the entire village that helps us produce A More Perfect Union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Art, and of course, each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. Remember, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he has not heard from federal officials about planned ICE raids, but the city is preparing.
There's no communication from the federal government with our local police department. It's quite problematic.
He says President Trump is fueling fear and division and vows to protect residents and make sure they know their rights. Sean Diddy Combs'